My Tesla just sold for $4,500 because it was totaled after being crashed by my Turo guest and auctioned off at a salvage yard. Firstly, what happened to the renter that actually crashed my Tesla? Well, at the time, I honestly didn't think about it. Like when I was filming these videos, it never really crossed my mind of what's the renter up to. However, many commenters were like, wait, did he just get away scot-free? And I honestly didn't know. I had to do some digging and asking around. When you rent a car with Turo, you have the option to do different amounts of insurance based on basically your risk tolerance, like how much of a deductible do you want to pay in the case that something happens. So as a host, for example, I can give up as much as 40%, I believe, of my revenue, and this gives me really good insurance. I get like loss of use coverage and a very small I think the deductible is 0 actually. Or if I have a higher risk tolerance, I can do the 90% plan, which means I give Turo just 10% of my revenue, but I have a crazy deductible. So personally, I was on the 75 plan, so I give Turo 25% of my revenue, and the same thing goes for the renter. It's set up a little bit differently, but basically, he decided to go high risk, that being he got the absolute bare minimum coverage, which means he ended up having to pay $3,000 out of pocket for this damage. And I know this is gonna sound crazy, I do feel bad for him. Not so bad where I'm gonna like contact him and be like, I'm so sorry this happened, what's your Cash App so I can give you the money I got paid. No, I'm gonna keep the money that he paid. I still feel a little bit bad, considering the circumstances. So we have to verify the driver's licenses of guests. This isn't stored with the host or anything, like we can't see it after we verify it. However, upon verification, it turns out he was a federal agent. I think working for Social Security, so it's possible he quite literally lost his job and he was trying to pay his bills with Instacart. Ultimately, this is all speculation. I did not talk to him at all. But regardless of what his circumstances were, I feel like it's kind of likely that he didn't have $3,000. So the question now is, how does Turo get that money from him? I don't know. Do they send him to collections? A lot of you were asking me, and I honestly have no idea what's going on the guest side of Turo. I'm just totally on the host side, in my lane, moisturized, thriving. So yeah, he did feel bad, he did apologize a couple times, and he did not get away scot-free. However, it's also worth noting he ran into another car. He ran into a Honda Accord, which I don't know if that was totaled or not, but it looks like it had structural damage, so it's very possible that he totaled not just one, but 2 vehicles. At the very least, he caused a lot of damage. So think about how much Turo made off of me in the total 6 months of renting. Well, they took 25% of my trips, and they added extra fees on top. So ultimately, me becoming a Turo host was a total loss for them because I didn't generate them that much revenue, but one of my guests cost them not 1, but 2 vehicles, which is crazy. But I guess at the end of the day, it all averages out and it's worth it to Turo in the end, hopefully. Unless Turo is just suffering in silence behind the scenes. Turo paid out $21.7 thousand to me after my guests and I put over 20,000 miles in the car in just 6 months. The MSRP back in 2018 was $50,000 and I paid $16,000 after the used EV tax credit. But there was one final problem with this whole experience, being that my bank that I have the loan through and the auction yard, who now legally owns my Tesla, are in a boss battle. The last video ended with me getting the money, but I hadn't actually gotten it in my checking account yet. It hadn't actually been deposited because my loan is collateral based. It's backed by the Tesla itself, which means before I get any money, I have to settle the loan amount to ensure there's nothing owed on it. But my next due date to pay the loan was rapidly approaching, and I didn't want to make another payment. I kept being told to just wait a few more days and it'll all be done, but a few more days passed once again, so I called the bank.
So I was reviewing the notes on the account. It looks like Coastal's waiting on your GAT to be filed first.
Okay.
I can get you over to our loans department.
I'm getting paid more than the loan has left on the balance, so I don't know why they're using gap insurance. But I don't want to mess up the process. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, I don't need gap insurance, and like, okay, and then they just like, don't give me money or something.
I do apologize. You were transferred without providing any information. Could you provide your account number, please?
Yeah, 1 sec.
Turo never responded to the
Okay.
email, so I do apologize.
Do you already have like the 16,000 from Turo?
I have not received a response back from Turo.
Okay, basically Turo just isn't communicating with anyone, including me.
or my loan provider. They just don't talk to anyone. They just disappear. Okay, now I'm gonna call Turo and be like, what the frick? What the flip, guys? Why are you taking so flipping long? Freaking Brian, my Turo specialist.
Please hold while I try to connect you.
Hello, this is Brian of Turo, please.
So I emailed like a week ago just to see if there was an update on the claim. And I was told that you guys are waiting on my loan provider. But I called them and they said that they were waiting on Turo.
So for me, it would be reaching out to our team at IAA. That's the one that's handling, they're the ones, a group called Title Procurement that's working with you and your lien holder.
Okay, now I'm calling IAA, third call.
Thank you for calling IAA Title Procurement.
I have a, on paying off the car, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
What's your name and the year, make, and model of the vehicle? Yes, that needs to be paid to the lien holder.
Oh, okay, so I just submit that payment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they're not going to issue out your letter of guarantee.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, okay. Yeah, I've been trying to contact for like a week and a half and just nobody told me what to do, so. But yeah, I can do that today.
Yeah.
Okay, so I should send the full amount that I got paid out. And then I'll just get a refund.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe this was all obvious, or maybe this was really confusing. I don't know. This was a new experience for me, so I didn't really know what was happening. But literally, all I had to do was take the money sitting in my account and submit it to the bank. It took like 30 seconds to do, but I was never told I needed to do anything because the instructions were just wait for us to process the payment. You don't have to do anything. So my assumption was IAA would pay the loan first and then I cover whatever's left, but it turns out it's the opposite. The money that was paid to me first needs to go to the loan, then IAA will cover the rest, and then anything left over will be redeposited into my account. So it all kind of goes in a circle. But anyway, yeah, the loan was closed out shortly. And so a year ago, I had a mortgage, 2 credit cards, 2 car loans, a medical loan, a personal loan, and a tax loan. Today, I just have a mortgage. What the heck? That's crazy, actually. It feels crazy. So there was money left over. Wow, that's incredible. What the heck? So I took the leftover money from the payout. I put half in my savings and half in a Roth IRA. I'm kidding. You know I would never do that. I dumped every dollar to my name into a Robinhood account because I wanted to buy the Trump stock market dip. And a few weeks later, I was up $1,000. So I was like, okay, good enough for me. So I cashed out. I spent 500 of the gains on materials for some home renovation, and the other 500 just went to my usual bills that month because why not? I still have that initial $4,000, which is currently sitting in a high yield saving account until the president goes sicko mode again. I'm interjecting in my script here. The president tweeted again, so I put the money back in the market. This is not financial advice. If you do enjoy hearing about my personal finances and want to hear more of the YouTube side of things, I made this members only video which might interest you, so I'll link it below. I'm so curious what the reaction of the poor guy that came downstairs from his apartment to find his Honda just all crunched up. Though I'd much rather my car be run into while I'm not in it, so it could have been worse. So that, you know, I'm not also injured in the process. And in the case you are seriously hurt, your injury could potentially be worth millions without time-consuming appointments, paperwork, upfront costs, and just reliving the traumatic event over and over. Insurance companies often lowball clients' claims, but if you become Morgan & Morgan's client, they will fight to get you the money you deserve for getting hurt. They've achieved significant verdicts in the past couple months for victims involved in a huge plethora of injuries, including life-altering car crashes. Like $12 million in Florida, which is 34 times the highest insurance offer, $26 million in Philadelphia, 40 times the highest insurance offer. One client was hit by an uninsured motorist and sued his own insurance after they offered just $50,000, which didn't even cover medical expenses. So Morgan & Morgan secured him over $5 million. Morgan & Morgan's fee is absolutely free unless you win your case. You're just a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. You can start your own claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/goherping, linked in the description, or by using your phone to scan the QR code on screen. Thank you to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring. Back to the video. But there is one more person that I want to think about and speculate over a bit, that being the buyer of my salvaged Tesla. Did he get a good deal at auction? Well, it sold for about the same average as what other Teslas have been going for that have similar damage, and while many people told me that I should buy the car back myself and do the repairs, I've done very minor vehicle fixes just on my personal cars and a couple friends' cars. Some of them you've seen on the channel, like working on the Subaru. Things like the manifold and the exhaust, and even the most basic maintenance like spark plugs and transmission fluid. Doing this stuff convinced me that I will never be a car repair guy. It's just not in my genes, and it's not something that I aspire to learn to do. I love driving cars, I love trying to make money off cars, I do not like fixing cars. And so based on the quote from the collision center before it was totaled, the Tesla required around $7,000 in parts, albeit those were brand new parts, and that labor was charged at something like $100 an hour. So if the right person bought it with the right skills, they'll very soon be driving a perfectly functioning Tesla with a very powerful and like in good condition motor and a battery that is very healthy. And they get all of that for less than $12,000 if they purchase the same parts that my collision shop was gonna buy. But again, that guy is not me. I would not be able to do that. If I were to buy it back, I would just cry and sit there with a bunch of parts, or I could have brought it back to the repair shop once again, which would have cost, in the end, about $21,000 to get it back on the road. That being to buy it from auction and to pay the $16.6K to get it fixed. Which, what do you know, that's exactly what I was paid out by Turo before paying off the loan. So basically, if I was really attached to this car or something, I could have gone through the process, and in the end, it wouldn't have cost me any extra. It just would have been a lot of time and energy. And as I mentioned in the previous videos, this Tesla had been accruing so much minor, but still substantial damage over the past 30 guests, and I had bought it in far from perfect condition. From a little tear in the seat to poorly repaired paint chips, a bunch of door dings, the C-pillar had a dent in it, and all these things were present before I even started renting. And then after rentals began, I ended up with a torn front splitter thing. There were stains all over the interior cabin from mostly makeup, but also food and drinks. The window tint was torn by someone, the trim was scratched, the trunk was dinged, and the rear bumper was damaged twice. And while all these things are small, it wasn't exactly some pristine or sentimental or special Tesla. The auction yard, however, did slightly lower what I was paid out because of this damage. But when I say slightly, it's literally slightly, because the rear bumper, for example, which I got quotes of over $4,000 to get back to the condition it was before it was damaged, this did lower how much I was paid out by a resounding $100. I thought they were going to take off more from what I get paid. Nope, they were just like, it's not too bad. Here's $100 less. And as much as we all loved or hated this Tesla, it was just another deep metallic blue Tesla amongst the sea of Model 3s. So in other words, I'd rather just buy another used one with a clean Carfax instead of some salvage title Model 3 that's already been beat up. But yeah, the good news is this car will most likely be on the road once again very soon and by a new owner. So who knows, maybe I'll pass it someday and I won't even realize that's my old Model 3. So I think it's nice to know that, yes, while there was a lot of damage and while it was costly for a couple companies like Turo, I'm glad that it wasn't just like thrown in a scrapyard. It'll be fully functioning once again. Okay, but what's next? Now what? Turo's been a staple on my channel over the past year, and I was planning to keep it for at least a year, if not longer. Now, luckily, there are many other series that I'm working on that I'm actively making and are being published. Some of them are car related, but others are not. And I know many of you came to the channel specifically for Turo. And a quick side note, I can't believe that some people know me as a car channel now. That's like the coolest thing ever, because I kind of dreamed of one day being able to make car videos, and it's actually happening now. What the heck? I actually pivoted into car content. How did that happen? Now, there's many things I indulge in that I do for a bit, and then once I'm done, I swear, I'm done for good. I'm never going back. One of them I did for over 5 years, one I did for over 2 years, but as of today, I have zero plans to go back to any of them. And while I do still have some gig app related videos occasionally posted, and I have a few on the way of like stuff I learned and experiences, I truly do hope to avoid returning to either of these because I want to focus on new things. But I cannot say the same for Turo. While I haven't purchased another Turo car, I haven't even gone to any dealerships, I do, however, do a little window shopping. Couple times a week, just online, scrolling through Car Gurus or whatever. But at the same time, I don't really feel like taking out another loan right now. I'd like to generally stay debt-free for at least the next couple years, unless I discover or create an opportunity where I'm like, okay, I definitely need to borrow money for this. But right now I have no plans for anything that requires borrowing money. It probably won't come as a surprise that the vehicle at the top of my Turo dream list or just I guess Dreamless in general, still stands as the Tesla Cybertruck. It's controversial, it's expensive, it's high risk, and it's very popular within just conversation right now. And of course, personally, I would love to own one. Currently, the very cheapest used ones across the United States are just under $70,000, and they rent out relatively frequently in my area on Turo, partly because there's very few listings. There's very little competition for Cybertrucks. But of course, fewer people are willing to spend $100 to $300 a day on a Turo listing before fees. And also, as probably made obvious by now, I don't have $70,000 just hanging around, so I would have to do some serious leveraging or margins trading on Robinhood to manifest that kind of money. One other idea I have is to continue my defunct Subaru BRZ series, because honestly, this car's just been sitting in my garage, just collecting, well, pollen in my case. When I do drive this car, I absolutely love every second of it, but I have to admit that 9 times out of 10, maybe like 49 times out of 50, when I go in my garage, I just hop in the Tesla. But my thinking is, okay, maybe I do a few more videos on the BRZ, see what you think, see what the feedback is, if you enjoy them. If you do, okay, epic. We have another car series underway. Then I just continue. But if not, maybe, I don't know, maybe I should sell the Subaru, I don't know, and put that money towards another project or another car that could generate content and maybe some income on the side. This is kind of crazy, but right now, identical BRZs are listed for more today in 2025 than what it was listed for and what I paid for this in 2022. Plus, mine has a brand new clutch, and that clutch has less than 2,000 miles on it. People have suggested I put this car on Turo, but putting a manual car on Turo sounds like a nightmare, speaking of clutches. Also, mine has too many miles to even qualify. Also, I recently picked up a Nissan Leaf, which is still awaiting the spotlight in its own series. So basically, you can see there's definitely different car ideas that have been bouncing around in my head because I had so much fun achieving a successful car-related series after my first attempt came up a bit short financially and view-wise. And the great thing is, I can basically try all of these things sooner or later, thanks to your support because you watch, but particularly the support of the channel members. It makes literally all of the difference. It's so great. I really appreciate it. And while I can't respond to every comment nowadays, I still read literally every single one posted on the channel. So you're always invited to share your opinions on how I should spend my time, how I should spend my money, and how I should use my resources now that this Tesla Turo plan has been cut short. Do I do it again? I don't know. Do I get another Model 3? Do I get an S? Do I get an X? Do I get a different EV? Do I get a gas car? Do I try and get a Cybertruck? I'd freaking love a Cybertruck. Are we done with Turo? It's very likely I'll just never do it again. Should I downsize the cars and just focus 100% on other projects like the home ownership series and DIY and renovation? Some people suggest very extreme ideas like ditching the house completely, taking the equity, and just traveling. I don't know if I'll do that, but hey, it's an interesting idea because anything is possible. I love hearing your ideas, and it's very likely that I'll actually do some of them. I have clear and defined medium to long-term goals over the next few years, and you're gonna see every single one of them either succeed or fail here on my channel in real time. Because I'll be honest, the only reason I'm not actively going to the bank today and running my credit score to try and score a Cybertruck is because I do want to preserve my borrowing power and my credit score as much as possible, because I do have a big purchase I want to make in the future, that being another house. So now that I'm out of debt, I'm building essentially from $0 in cash instead of building from negative cash. And when I do say oh, I want to buy another house, it's not like this is right around the corner or that I already have the down payment and I just need to secure a loan. No, I'm starting from zero with this new goal. It's going to take a lot of work because the progress bar is empty, but it is a goal. And as convoluted as it may sound at first, making these considerable bets may actually help continue to push me closer to these goals. So there's a real reality where this turns into this, but it could also turn into this. And the fact that this outcome is a mystery, in my opinion, is the most fun part. I'm also in the midst of working on some short-term goals because I find these to be the most fun day-to-day that really keep me active and excited and ready to work each day. I currently have 2 roommates, with 1 more roommate moving in for this summer, and he's going to help me with many of the projects you'll see over the next few months. After that, I'll probably start to downsize roommate-wise. I don't know if I'll get more roommates. But basically, I didn't want to end this final look at the Turo Tesla as like a, okay, the end, goodbye, because this ultimately was just one of many experiences that I have the opportunity to collect. Like I'm collecting experiences like Pokemon, because this bittersweet end just opened up more doors than it closed. But yeah, the question of the day, is it time to quit while I'm ahead and say goodbye to Turo? Or do we double down and say hello to a cyborg truck? Let me know.